The Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange, which took place from 1492 and lasted throughout the years of expansion and discovery, which was called the Age of Exploration. The exchange triumphantly grew the economy of the United States and spread ideas and culture across the oceans. Unfortunately, tragedy transpired when the Europeans carried over many illnesses native to their land and killed many Native Americans in the process, and arose the idea of using the less wealthy as slaves to the rest of the world, and it even was the start of using native and more naive people for the hard labor needed to grow the economy. The lasting impact of the exchange can be seen in the development of the new culture between the New World and the Europeans. When Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in the year 1492, he could never have imagined to be the face of exploration and discovery in all of American history, even to this day. Christopher Columbus's voyage marked the first encounter between the Spanish Europeans and the native peoples belonging to the Western Hemisphere. This voyage was not the first or even last time Europeans have traveled outside of their confined parts of the continent. During the start of the Age of Exploration, many explorers left their native lands and encountered unfamiliar and foreign things such as new cultures, new and uncolonized lands, and even ways to exploit a colony's resources. Although these things gained fame and fortune for them, native people in the Western Hemisphere struggled to maintain their homes and even lives. Without having any information about the rest of the world and being so naive, the native peoples welcomed the Spaniards with open arms and offered them gifts. So, in 1492, Columbus's arrival in the Americas suddenly collided with 12,000 years of American isolation from Eurasia. The transmission of European diseases that depopulated the Americas was part of a larger cultural and demographic exchange between the New and Old worlds that included food, animals, people, trade, diseases, and technology. With that being, the native peoples of America not only were driven out of their homes with force, but also were bombarded by illnesses foreign to their land and deadly to those especially who had never had to face them before. Illnesses included smallpox, measles, influenza, the bubonic plague, and diphtheria. Columbus came to America in search of freedom and to build a more successful world for him and his fellow colonists. In order to create this new world, Columbus used the Native Americans for hard labor to help grow the country's economy. Disregarding anything that had not been theirs in the first place, Columbus and his colonists decided to make this portion of the Western Hemisphere their own. Columbus's initial interactions with Native Americans show Columbus, his men, and his ships on the left, while the Native Americans appear on the right. The drawing portrays big differences between the body positions and clothing of the two groups. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer. He was the first European to sail to the Americas in the late 15th century. Although many explorers beforehand had gone and discovered new land, none had quite been this successful and in fact lucky. Columbus was not looking to find a new world. He was trying to discover a shorter trade route to the wealthy countries of Asia and came across America. Columbus was adamant that if he were to travel across the Atlantic Ocean, he would come across Asia much quicker than by the Indian Ocean or by foot. Columbus made 4 journeys to the Americas. His voyages inspired others to explore and reign as well. Many other world-famous explorers, in fact, inspired Columbus himself, including Marco Polo. Cattle and horses brought over to the New World by the Europeans also introduced new forms of transportation and a new source of food. This made the population increase greatly, but on the downside, it also increased the population of African slaves brought over by the triangular trade route it also created. The triangular trade route was trade among 3 ports or regions of the world. This form of trade is typically evolved when a region has specific commodities in which cannot be obtained in one particular area. Some of the most abundant and exported crops from American ports were cotton, tobacco, and wheat and corn. With this being, there are several ways in which Columbus triumphantly colonized America for it to be seen as the way it is today. Tragically, many sacrifices were made in order to do so. During a time in which the 3 G's were idealistic, gold, God, and glory, explorers set out for that exactly and did whatever it took to achieve this. No remorse was given to even innocent lives such as those taken from this historic event. Overall, this was a tremendous opportunity for growth and prosperity for the Europeans, although it turned out to be a devastating negative impact to the Native Americans.